of the morning show. We're here in beautiful Rodante, North Carolina, and we have a very special show lined up for you today. So don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Most I knew, and she had said that they already had 2 inches and were going to have flash flood.
By the time I get to them, we don't have a library here.
Year from April.
Wow.
This is one of the more fascinating. This is called, what the room we're in now is called the men's shower. So all 8 men had this one bathroom. This, we find a lot of people do not recognize what this stuff is because you don't see it much anymore. No, it's slate.
Slate.
And if you'll come look over here, there's a really interesting story, and it shows a lot about the thinking is how different in those days. This was actually used as ballast on the barges that brought the building materials over for this building. And these are the pallet marks. The keeper was the only one that had his own office and his own bedroom. This would have been the keeper's office. So look at those floors. You won't see any seams in the floorboards, and that's because they were all cut to length. Anytime you do see a seam, it's because we had to replace it. Typically, you look at something like this and you think, oh well, that's just a piece of molding. But if you look on this side, you see that's not molding at all. That's all been carved as one piece. You just don't see this kind of thing anymore. Another thing you don't see is transoms, and every room has one of these transoms. And you have to remember, of course, in 1911 when this building was built, there's no air conditioning. So you can't close your door in the middle of the summer and not have some air circulation. So this is how they managed to do that. This room in the upstairs, the largest room, would have been the crew quarters, and that would have housed.
Good morning and welcome to Top of the Morning show. We're here today in beautiful Rodante, North Carolina with Linda Malloy. And you are going to tell us something about the movie that was recently filmed here.
Indeed, Nights in Rodante. What a great book. This book here by Nicholas Sparks was turned into a Hollywood movie. And Hollywood did come to Rodante and the Outer Banks. We were thrilled to film a lot of the exterior scenes. And so, as a lot of movies do, afforded a lot of the locals a chance to be in it as well. And so we lined up, queued up with all of the rest of the 2,000 local residents who decided they wanted a chance to be in the movie. And fortunately, my husband and I were selected. So began our Hollywood career in the Outer Banks. It's a delightful story. It's a romance, and a lot of folks who are fans of Nicholas Sparks will recognize the name immediately. But it's a tremendously thrilling love story, and it has some great clutching moments that really draw some emotion. So I was particularly thrilled to have a chance to even be connected with it. But in the filming of the extras, the scene that we were selected to be in, we spent most of the day, and that was one lesson we quickly learned, that when you're involved in any movie making, there's a lot of hurry up and wait time. So in the 13 hours that we spent on the first day of filming, it turned out that my husband, who really didn't care one way or the other, had a chance to be picked and selected and filmed in a scene with Diane Lane. And I was absolutely thrilled for them, except the directors told everybody, well, that's it for the day, we're not going to be filming anymore. And unfortunately, the rest of you won't be in the scene. So it took me a couple of days to recuperate from that disappointment, but I was very thrilled when the producer contacted me several days later and said that there was an opportunity for me to be seen, interviewed for a chance, perhaps, for a stand-in role. And so I was there at the appointed time. And when I asked him, well, so tell me, what does a stand-in do? He said, well, we don't really want a stand-in. We're looking for a person to play this character. And the skies opened up and the fresh air rushed in, and I just about fell through a hole in the sand, but found out that I put my bid in quickly to be a chance to be this character. The character's name was Jill Torelson. And I'd read the book, of course, when it first came out, and then a refresher course in it too when I knew that they were going to be filming. and knew exactly what Jill Torelson did and her importance to the role, or to the book. It's a very tiny character's part. There's no speaking lines, I found out. But it's a pivotal role in that her character is the reason that so many other things happen in the book. And I don't want to give too much away, particularly since the movie is going to be released soon. I hope everybody has a chance to see it and find out for themselves. But I did land the role of Jill Torelson. I did have a chance to film some scenes with Richard Gere, which was just a bonus in any way you look at it. And such a professional, consummate actor, as they say, and very friendly but very prepared. And the scene that we filmed was one that took place in a hospital. Now, Richard Gere is a physician in this scene. He's a plastic surgeon, top of his profession, and much demand. And my character is the wife of a fisherman from the village of Rodante. And since I live very close to it and see so many of these people and have studied their history, I felt a connection to it right away. But this poor, unfortunate woman has just lived a very simple but happy life in Rodante. But she had a small place, something on her face, but the older she got and the more children she had, the larger this place on her face became, until she finally decided that I'd like to do something, I think, to have it removed. It made her somewhat shy, and the children made fun of it. But so she goes to the doctor. Doctor being Richard Gere. The scene is she's on the operating table. He's performing the surgery when there's a problem. And the patient, myself, begins to crash. And the doctor, Richard Gere, being the good doctor he is, decided that, well, I've got to save my patient. So he began to give his patient chest compressions to begin the CPR process. So it was quite an exciting scene with lots of bells and whistles and excitement and heart palpitations. And when the director yelled cut, there was a round of applause from the cast and crew that was watching. So I felt pretty good about the whole thing. So that was my big excitement, my claim to fame with the Nights in Rodante movie.
Oh my goodness, that had to be so exciting. And how special. And Richard Gere.
Well, he's such an iconic actor. Regardless of whether you agree with what he says or his beliefs, or you look at his acting profession, and it was just a thrill for the first time ever to be in a movie, to be in it with him.
Well, I'm sure that our viewers would just love to take a little sneak peek at this, and we're going to take a break and be right back. Welcome back. Wasn't that exciting? And talk about excitement. I would like for Linda to tell us a little bit about her experience with Richard Gere.
I get that a lot. A lot of people are interested in knowing, and I can't say that I blame them. When the cast was announced, Richard Gere, Diane Lane, all our hearts were a-twitter, of course, and one of the great sports became star searching and see if you could cite the stars. So I had an inside seat, and when I was filming a few things here on the island, I got to hear when filming was going to be, or where it was going to be the next day, so I felt like I had a little bit of the inside scoop too. And he was able to do some scenes down at the ferry docks where you catch the ferry over to Ocracoke Island, and some scenes at one of the houses that is very close by, and one of the local stores, and a lot of places here, so that there was lots of people standing on the sidelines. What was one of the sad things was that as being an actress in the movie, or an extra, or background actors as they call, one of the things we were instructed is you must not bring a camera. We must not catch you taking pictures of the stars, and if so, you'll be asked to leave. So obviously, no one took a chance with that. But knowing that I was going to be filming a scene with him, I was hoping that there was a way that I could get some sort of proof. And we had a makeup fella from Los Angeles. He was doing special effects makeup and putting this fake tumor on my face. And he and I told him, you know, my desire here to have a picture with Richard Gere. So he told me that if he saw an opportunity where this would happen and wouldn't cause any problems, he'd let me know. So we were sitting side by side. Richard Gere was sitting across the room and waiting for his cues to go on, watching the action on the video cameras. And everything was kind of quiet and subdued at the moment. And so I asked Robert, how would now be a good time? Robert Hall was the gentleman's name. I said, would now be a good time? He said, I think this would be an excellent time. And are you sure? Because I don't want to offend anybody, and I sure don't want to be kicked off the set. He said, no, if you're going to ask for a photo, now's the time. So I approached Mr. Gere. Excuse me, Mr. Gere, my name is Linda Malloy, and I'm going to be in this scene with you, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind posing for a photograph with me. And he paused for just a moment, and he looked up, big smile. Why, sure, I'd be happy to. And do you have a camera? Well, Robert and I had prearranged this, of course, but I didn't let on. And, well, yes, I just, Robert, do you have a camera by chance? Well, yes. So he pulled me in, you know, in close, and we posed for the picture, and then he generously said, well, take a look at the camera, and if the picture didn't turn out, let me know. We'll do another one. So I walked over and pretended for a half of a second and looked at the camera. Oh, yes, we would like to get another one. So we posed again. He graciously did that. And he was, although he did not come to the Chickamaucomico site where I worked, which was right across the street from the base camp where they had set up, he did know about it, and he mentioned that was I the lady from the Historical Society, so I would have loved to open up a great conversation with him, but knew that I couldn't take time. But he was very generous and very gracious and very prepared. As we filmed our scene, he was made sure that he was not being overly aggressive or hurting me in the CPR process. I thought that was very nice of him, because he could pretty much get away with anything that he wanted in most cases, you know. But I appreciated that. And
I mean, and no wonder you asked for a second pose.
well, of course,
Being that close to him and in his arms. And your husband, I hear, had his moment on the screen with
Diane Lane, yes.
Lane.
He was, we were both so fortunate first time to be in a movie, and both of us an opportunity to film with the major stars and a chance to be in a movie together. It was just a dream come true. But yes, he had the fortunate good luck to be selected to film a scene where in this scene the storm is fast approaching the Outer Banks, which is one of the main characters of the story, of course. And as it is approaching, of course, the locals are all getting ready for the storm and buying out everything on the shelves at the store. And James, my husband, has already made his purchases and is exiting the store, coming down the steps with his cooler and bag of groceries, which they filled with the actual thing so that the weight would show. So he said it got kind of tiring carrying groceries in and out for all the takes. He comes down the steps, Diane Lane drives up in her Jeep, hops out, and they pass each other on the steps as they go in, nod and so forth. She's going to buy her supplies, you see. Well, they got to film that, I believe, 5 times. And in between takes, the principals would go back inside the store because it was a little warm and enjoy the air conditioning while they waited. So he and the store owner and maybe 1 or 2 others were inside with Diane Lane while they were preparing for another take. So he got a chance to sort of see her in a relaxed mode and found out that she has quite an amazing sense of humor. Just a real delight, and again, such a professional, exquisite actress. But he did get a chance to mention to her as she was leaving the store preparing for the next take that, well, Miss Lane, I didn't know that you had such a great sense of humor. And she turned around, big smile, and said, well, thank you, you know. And I think she appreciated someone actually seeing her, and as she, I assume, really is. But Diane Lane is an absolutely lovely woman, and so we feel it's somewhat of an equivalent. James got to film with Diane Lane, and my scene with Richard Gere. So we both have something to brag about, and we can't hold anything over each other because we're on equal footing there as far as that goes.
I just can't imagine how much fun you all must have had in it.
It was a delight, an experience for me of a lifetime. We get a chance to do, my husband and I, so many things together, of course, but the great opportunity of working together as well is absolutely wonderful. We share so many passions for so many things. We're able to bring them not only to our home life and married life, but to work as well.
And speaking of your working together, tell us a little bit about that.
We are, my husband and I, the entire staff of the Chickamaucomico Life Saving Station Historic Site and Museum, which is here in Rodante. It's a wonderful, wonderful maritime museum. Very few of these original complexes, buildings still exist. And we're so fortunate to have this here within America's history. It's still something preserved, but on a personal level, to be able to be in charge and caretakers, if you will, of this wonderful facility. It's where so much history happened, so much of the Outer Banks history. So many lives were changed and affected by what took place at stations like this. And so, again, to be able to share that with the public and to be able to do this together, it's something that not many people have an opportunity to do, but we consider it a real blessing in our lives.
Well, they certainly don't, and it must be very rewarding to be able to preserve and take care of something so historic, and especially to this beautiful, beautiful Rodante, and to share that with your husband. And you all have certainly a lot to talk about for many, many, many years.
Well, as Noel Coward said, we can dine out on these stories for a long time, or to paraphrase.
Well, I would like to hold that for just one moment, and we're going to take a break, and we will be back shortly.
Welcome to the gift shop at Chickamaucomico Life Saving Station Site. We have a lot of very unique items here, and some things you won't find in any other location, and we invite you all, of course, to please stop in, hopefully find a little something to take along with you.
We're buying stuff so you're happy.
This happens to be a particularly good example of what Linda was talking about. There are lots and lots of maps of the Outer Banks with shipwrecks, and the tourists love those. This is the only one that exists that shows all of the life-saving stations on the North Carolina coast. And we were pleased to be a part of the effort in producing this. So this is unique. The current issue of the Island Breeze, a local publication, it focuses on the movie that was filmed here, Nights in Rodante, and there's several articles in there, some of which we wrote.
Welcome back. And your husband was on an earlier show, your husband James, and I wondered if you would share with us a little more about the life station.
Oh, I'd love to. James holds the position of the site manager, and I'm the site operations manager. We have an amazing complex. It's a 7-acre site. There's 8 historic buildings, all originals. There are no reproductions at Chickamaucomico. And we are able to present programs. We are open to the public from mid-April till about the end of November. We are a nonprofit organization, and so it's up to us to raise every penny ourselves. And we've done an amazing job, but we do stand on the shoulders of a lot of giants, as they say. There's been many folks before us that have brought us to where we are now, and I feel James and I are just picking up the ball and carrying on for the next group that come through. But there's the real gem, the jewel of the site, the 1874 life-saving station. There's only 2 of those buildings, original buildings in existence in the United States, open to the public, and we have one of them, and it's just a beautiful, stunning building. It's amazing to think of what took place there. And then its replacement station, built in 1911, only a few of that style architecture remaining as well. And then it's cookhouses for each of the buildings and a home that belonged to one of the midget families. It's a name if you're not familiar with, you will be soon if you spend any time on the Outer Banks. They were, a famous group of lifesavers. It seemed that most of the men joined the service at Chickamaucomico and eventually other stations as well. We have water tanks and cisterns, a complete complex, and it's a chance for people to step back into time as well. Not many people know about the life-saving service. It's certainly not taught in the schools. They have so much that they need to learn that somehow this got kicked aside. Yet we did some rough calculations, and because of what happened at the stations, because of the rescues that took place, because of the selfless dedication to an amazing job, going out and rescuing people in the worst weather when everybody else is going the opposite direction, particularly with the equipment and methods that they had of the day, that they were able to save so many people and so dedicated to this job. And the rough calculations we did, in the world today, we've estimated there's approximately 1.5 million people alive because of the efforts of the men of the U.S. Life-Saving Service. Isolated locations, unsung heroes, truly America's forgotten heroes. And it's to this purpose that we are dedicating our lives and make sure that these stories are not forgotten. So we invite everyone to come to the site. It's located in the village of Rodante. It's at milepost 39.5, which everything down here is measured in mileposts, on Hatteras Island, on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. If anybody would like to know more information, the phone number that they could reach us is 252-987-1552. We also have a website, which is absolutely great, but you have to be sure to spell Chickamaucomico, so you get a little spelling lesson as well. It's www.chickamaucomico.net. Chickamaucomico.net. So we invite everyone, if you can't get to the banks for a visit, at least visit us via the website.
And I'm sure that visit to the website will tweak interest and you will get visitors.
We
I'm
certainly
sure.
hope so, yes.
But it's just so special. And as you said, those men really deserve to be remembered and recognized for their
Indeed.
heroism.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. You know, Linda, we are going to end the show with a little visit to the Serendipity, which is a home where this was filmed. And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, absolutely. It's located in a very precarious position. When the home was originally built, of course, there was much more beachfront in front of it, but the erosion rate has caused this to be, for filming purposes, an absolutely perfect location. And you will see, of course, once you've seen the movies and we take the trip to the house as well, there's wonderful lines and angles, and once Hollywood got done with its revisions as well, it looked splendid. They put blue shutters on, they added a weather vane, and put their own sign. Each home, you may have noticed, has its own name and usually a very fancy sign. So that one, the Inn at Rodante, was up there temporarily, and they, because of the location of the house and the constant scouring of the wind and the tides, you won't find much vegetation growing around it. But Hollywood did want to see some vegetation, so they brought some in, and they were trying to find some that they could cut down and take in because none grows there. And they came to Chickamaucomico and said, well, we've been admiring this tree, and could we buy it from you? And we said, well, of course. It was a dead tree, you see, and it had to come down anyway, but it had the perfect lines that they were looking for. So someone had a very artistic eye. They cut the tree, they moved it, they put a telephone pole behind it, stuck it in cement, and then glued some branches of live greenery on, got just the shape that they wanted. And they liked that tree so much that they took it with them to Wilmington, North Carolina, when they continued the filming. But once you see what they've done, and some aerial shots as well, it's a stunning home with lots of lines and features. Yes.
Well, I can hardly wait to see it, as I'm sure that you all are very anxious to too. We're going to take a peek right now. thank you, Linda, for being here with us today and for sharing your very special story.
It was my pleasure.
Thank you. And I hope you all will read the book and go see the movie when it comes out. And thank you for being here with us today. Bye-bye. And folks, thank you so much for being here today and watching the show. And I would like you to just listen, and you'll be able to feel like you're right here with me in beautiful Rodante. Just listen to those waves. Bye-bye.